यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवारधारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवारधारी यशोदानंदन व्रजजानरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजानरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजानरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजजानरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jam Visupat Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Astottara Satasi Srimad Abhai Charanar Avinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda ki jai. Naam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar शिव सदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भागवतं की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Lotus feet, Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class, Sridham Mayapur. We are reading from the first canto, chapter 18, entitled Parikshit Curse by a Brahmana Boy. And we are reading from text 45. Tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ. Tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ. varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ. varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ. tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ. tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ. śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. Bolo. tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ samacāra-trayī-mayaḥ. Ladies, tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ tadārya-dharmaḥ pravilīyate nṛṇāṁ varṇāśramācāra-yutas trayī-mayaḥ tato rtha-kāmābhiniveśitātmanāṁ śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. Tadā, at that time, ārya, progressive civilization, dharmaḥ, engagement, pravilīyate, is systematically vanquished, nṛṇāṁ, of humankind, varna, caste, āśrama, orders of society, ācāra-yutaḥ, composed in a good manner, trayī-mayaḥ, in terms of the Vedic injunction, tadā, thereafter, artha, economic development, kāma-abhiniveśita, fully absorbed in sense gratification, ātmanāṁ, of men, śunāṁ, like dogs, kapīnām, like monkeys, Iva das varṇa-saṅkaraḥ, unwanted population. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the castes and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. Sounds familiar? You see this nowadays? Yes? I'll read again, okay, just to make sure that you are tuning in. At that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the caste and the orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. Purport. It is foretold herein that in the absence of a monarchical regime, the general mass of people will be an unwanted population like dogs and monkeys. As the monkeys are too sexually inclined and dogs are shameless in sexual intercourse, the general mass of population born of illegitimate connection will systematically go astray from the Vedic way of good manners and qualitative engagements in the castes and orders of life. The Vedic way of life is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. The Aryans are progressive in Vedic civilization. The Vedic civilization's destination is to go back to Godhead, back home, where there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. The Vedas direct everyone not to remain in the darkness of the material world, but to go towards the light of the spiritual kingdom, far beyond the material sky. The qualitative caste system and the orders of life are scientifically planned by the Lord and His representatives, the great rishis. The perfect way of life gives all sorts of instruction in things both material and spiritual. The Vedic way of life does not allow any man to be like the monkeys and dogs. A degraded civilization of sense gratification and economic development is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The people should not therefore begrudge the poor administrations they themselves elect. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The context of this verse is now Shamika Rishi is speaking to his son Shringi, and he has just cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die within 7 days for a minor offense. And what Shamika Rishi is explaining here is that when the king is killed, when the monarchical regime is abolished, then the whole society goes astray. And the goal of life becomes sense gratification and economic development. And this is a very clear prediction of what's going on today. Now, Prabhupada is using here the word progressive repeatedly in the purport, and describing that the Vedic way is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. So the Vedic civilization leads society towards spiritual emancipation, towards liberation, towards going back home, back to Godhead. As far as the living entity is not making progress towards achieving the ultimate goal of life, there is no progress really. So this is what is meant, that there is no, the Vedic civilization is progressive. This is the goal of life. Everything that the Vedic society presents is meant to give us spiritual elevation. And therefore, there is a system for that. And it's explained that the Vedic civilization gives direction not only in the matter of spiritual subjects, but also spiritual and material. And we have what is the social system presented by the Vedic civilization, which is varṇāśrama. And in this varṇāśrama system, the king plays a very, very important role. Now, when we read this, and if we will read this to a modern audience, there will be some eyebrows being raised. How is it monarchical regime will work? We saw in the past that monarchical regime, am I pronouncing it properly? Is it regime or regime? I don't know how it's English. Regime, okay. So in a monarchical regime, the kings were exploiting the society. This was happening particularly in the Middle Ages. They were taking advantage of the people. And, as a result, they were abolished by the Vaishyas. Thank you. So this is what we have today, that the society is being very much ruled by the Vaishyas. And so this type of monarchy is not what is being expressed, explained, and recommended here. What Bhagavatam is presenting is qualified monarchy. The monarch actually is the representative of the Lord. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that the king is one of all men, I am the monarch. The monarch is one of the vibhutis of the Lord. And the monarch becomes empowered to rule society, and to rule society in a way which is progressive, in a way that the citizens, they are going to meet their needs, their material needs met, while at the same time they are going to get the needed spiritual direction to become Krishna conscious and going back home, back to Godhead. So the Vedic paradigm, what is being presented here and what is being described at the time of King Parikshit, is very different to what we see today. What we see today is that it's a corrupt monarchy. And even in the places, sometimes you will find that there are places like, in the Middle East, where still the monarchy is very strong. And I have been there many times, and I've seen that it has many advantages, in the way that, for example, crime is very minimum. You can leave your computer there in the car, and no one is gonna touch it. You can leave the car open in most places, and there, like, you can walk on a Saturday night, and society is very peaceful, because the sense gratification is to some degree, regulated, which is the function of the king. The function of the king is to protect. Kshatriya means to protect. So protect from what? From what? What is it too loud now? The speaker, is it too loud? Too loud, or is it okay? It's too loud, right? So the function of the king is to protect. To protect from what? What is the ultimate enemy of the living entity? What is the ultimate enemy of the living entity? Mind and senses, okay. Well, actually it's not entirely true. It's a nuance there to be added. What is the ultimate enemy? It's the uncontrolled mind. Uncontrolled mind. Huh? The mind can be the friend and the mind can be the enemy, right? So it's the uncontrolled mind. And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the eternal enemy of the living entity is lust. Lust. So the duty of the leaders of society is to protect people from lust, not to promote it. Now we see in modern society what's happening. Are people being protected from lust? No, they are being, the whole ethos is how to enjoy sense gratification. And the better you are at enjoying sense gratification, the more followers you get on Instagram, right? Or Facebook, right? The greater sense enjoyers are the biggest, the people, the stars in the world. And one thing that also goes along with this is that due to the current system, people are not able to see the connection between sense gratification and suffering. Because this is what the Vedic civilization is presenting. That sense gratification, the intelligent man, the wise man, does not engage in sense gratification. Because they are the source of misery. They are the source of misery, and they have a beginning and an end. But modern society, do we see anybody making that connection? That the suffering of the world is caused because of unrestricted sense gratification? What happened when there is no a good king, a qualified king, is that the society become like donkeys and monkeys. And this is what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. Therefore, anything goes. What is it? The donkey has an unlimited sense, sex desire, sex drive. And the monkey, he will engage in sex life without any type of shame, without any type of restriction. And modern society is becoming like this. Children from the age of like 10, 11 years old, they are already engaged, in the West particular, they are already engaged in unrestricted sex life. It's crazy. You go to the university. I used to distribute books in the universities in the UK. And I remember that they have, the first week of the university, they have what is called the Freshers' Week, where all the new people come, all the new students come. And basically, they come very naive, very insecure. They're very, innocent in certain way, And then you meet the second year students. It's a total different thing. Total different thing. And what is the difference? They have now been introduced to nightlife, to, sex, to intoxication. They are serving like little, they're giving coupons for nightclubs or for drinking. It's really horrible. This is the university. So therefore, the need for a strong leader who is going to direct society according to the Dharma Shastras, according to the scriptures, is recommended. But then what we find is that society, the whole system became corrupt. And this is what is being explained as a theme in this chapter of the Bhagavatam. And it became by the Brahmanas, it started by the Brahmanas class becoming corrupted. And what is the corruption of the Brahman class? This false prestige, this false sense of entitlement. They have, they became arrogant and they became full of pride and condescending. And then what happens like this, when the Brahmanas become corrupt, then obviously the kings, the kshatriyas, they do not respect them anymore. In the Vedic system, the brahmanas, or the qualities of, no, in the Vedic, the qualities of the brahmanas is simplicity, self-control, purity. So naturally they earn the respect of the rest of the society. And it is very interesting to see also that in the varnashram system, the people at the top are the sannyasis. And what are the sannyasis? They're renounced people. They are renounced. That already sets an ethos to become, the highest people in society. You become renounced. And they themselves are preaching by example because they are happy in their renunciation. So already we see a connection there, that when we renounce sense gratification, the more we become free from the entanglement with the senses, the more peaceful and the happier we become. That's Vedic society. That's the top people. But when the whole ethos is that the topmost people are sense gratifiers, buying many cars and enjoying all kinds of, luxuries, then the society is misled into thinking that actually this is going to bring me happiness, which it is not bringing happiness. And this is why we see the condition of modern society. And the corruption of the Brahman class is still going on, is so prevalent. Something came up to me the other day in the internet about the corruption of these mega churches in the U.S. And these pastors, they are living a luxurious life. I mean, beyond description. So, what is the example that these people are setting for the rest of the world? So therefore, there is in one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that that people don't trust anyone anymore, because the people on the top, they are exploiting. The brahmanas become corrupted. Then the kshatriyas the kshatriyas get into power, but then they don't have the direction of the brahmanas. And the kshatriyas by nature, they are passionate, right? So they also become intoxicated by their power. And that's what we saw in the past, and that's what we see now also, that monarchs, they usually take advantage of their position. And they forget what is their actual purpose, which is to be guided by the brahmanas and to protect the citizens, protect the Vaishyas. And then, when the system is working very nicely, which is what is being explained here in the kingdom of King Parikshit, everybody is satisfied in their positions. Everybody is peaceful, acting according to their natures. So then the Kshatriyas are protecting the Vaishyas are protecting the animals, and the society works very nicely. But then when the Kshatriyas are exploiting, then the Vaishyas rebel. And then what happens when the Vaishyas are ruling the society? What becomes the goal? Economic development and sense gratification. At any cost. At any cost. So this is what's happening nowadays. And the actual purpose of human life is lost. Completely lost. So Prabhupada also is mentioning in the purport, and in fact Samika Rishi is mentioning in the verse, Śunāṁ kapīnām iva varṇa-saṅkaraḥ, that when the children are produced out of a sense of lust, the society becomes varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. Varṇa-saṅkaraḥ means unwanted population. And unwanted population means when the children are born without proper samskars. And then, they become very difficult to train. Very difficult to train. And they are prone again to sense gratification. So, just to finish with this point, that what is being recommended in the Bhagavatam is a qualified monarchy, or theistic monarchy, where the king has the qualifications to rule the society. And we can see these qualities in King Parikshit. This is being described. In the previous chapter, we heard about how he was a perfect administrator. But now in this chapter, we're also hearing about how he was, what were his qualities. And one of his qualities is that when he was cursed, he accepted his fate. Right? He was Narayana Parayana. He was completely dependent on the will of the Lord. That's the kind of king that we're talking about. He could have counter-cursed the curse. He could have, like punished Shringi. He could have done so many things. But what did he do instead? This is a sign by the Lord so that now I can focus on the actual, important business, which is to make all efforts to go back home, back to Godhead. So it's very, when we're talking about Vedic culture, when we're talking about Vedic society, it's so very, very rich. And the paradigm of Vedic society is that, first of all, we are not these bodies. We are eternal spirit souls. So, see, when we are talking about, the modern society, current society, enjoy now, without understanding the consequences. Like what happens when the Vaishyas come into power now. We're exploiting the resources of material nature. When sense gratification and economic development become the rule, then the result is exploitation. Animals are being exploited, killed in slaughterhouses, no consideration. There is no consideration again of the Atma within, of the principle of compassion, of the principle of dharma, of not causing harm to others. That doesn't matter anymore. What matters is, am I going to be able to enjoy the pleasure of the tongue, the pleasure of the palate? Am I going to get my protein so I can become very muscular? You name it. Then children are exploited. Abortion is going on. If it's going to interfere with my plans, get rid of him. Then we have in the history of the world slavery. We have so many types of exploitation on the basis of a lack of understanding of the jiva, of the soul. And then having understood that we're eternal spirit souls, the living entity is eternal, then it comes the principle also of what is the purpose of human life. What are we supposed to do? What is my goal? What is the ultimate necessity? What is the payoyana? And the actual goal is to return home, back to Godhead, where we belong. Where is this being presented nowadays? We have gurus speaking on YouTube, and are they talking about this? It's all part of enjoying again. Enjoying. And so we have such an important message to deliver, but also we have so many lessons to learn, because if the Brahmana class becomes corrupted, then the whole system falls apart. And this is what is being explained here. And how it becomes corrupted. Pride enters. We also try to take is this sense of entitlement. I am better than others. I know better than you. People don't take it these days. If you come with that mood of arrogance and mostly are we setting the proper example? And what is the proper example? Discipline, simple life. There may be some, we have different natures. There may be some amount of sense gratification. That's part of the Vedic system, but it's regulated. And part of so this is the context, that human life is meant for going back home, back to Godhead. And Krishna, the supreme controller, the supreme source of everything, he is our friend and our protector. And he, not only that, he is the supreme controller. There is a higher control that we are, accountable to. So that's what I said. The king is not acting independently. The Brahmanas are not acting independently. The Vaishyas are not acting independently. The Shudras, no one is acting independently. It's all being, we are being direct. The Brahmanas are directing the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas are directing the Vaishyas. And the Brahmanas are being directed by the scriptures and by the Brahmanas themselves, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So in this way, the system works very nicely. But nowadays, we can see how far we are from that. And this is what is being presented here. And as a result, people are suffering in a big way, in ways, there are people, because they are not being trained in what is the actual ultimate purpose of human life. And even when it comes to the question of suffering, the Vedic paradigm, the Vedic society, approaches it in a completely different way. That, when suffering comes our way, like Parikshit Maharaj, he's accepting it. He's not fighting it. He's seeing how this situation dictates to me in terms of my relationship with God, in terms of me making progress towards going back home, back to God. It's a completely different approach. Then we can accommodate karma, we can accommodate, the sufferings of the world. But without this paradigm, then what happens when suffering comes? How can there be a God? When there's so much suffering in the world. There cannot be a God. People become rebellious and they lose faith. This is what happened in the Second World War, and this is what happened nowadays also. But we understand that the suffering is not caused because there is no God and things are happening by chance. It's actually the suffering is caused because there is a God and there are rules. And if we break those rules, we're punished. And it's not that, Krishna is just like a cruel God and he's trying to, no. Krishna is pure love. These rules are there so that we come to our senses, we become awakened. Vedic society is learning how to die. It's teaching us preparing us to die so that we can attain an eternal life full of bliss and full of knowledge, where there is no anxiety and there is no suffering. There is no birth, a perfect world. So I'll touch one more point, and the point is being here in regards to varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. And as a society in ISKCON, this is also something that it needs to be emphasized. That the purpose of the Grihastha ashram is to bring good progeny into the world. we can make devotees, the demigods are queuing up, trying to come into the, wanted to come into the Sankirtan movement. So the world is in need of good souls. The world is in need of people of character. Varṇa-saṅkaraḥ means no character. Kali Yuga means degradation of character. So to bring good souls into this world is a major service, and there is a science for that purpose. And that science is brought to us by Srila Prabhupada, that, chanting 50 rounds, and it's not a mechanical thing, that I'm going to chant 50 rounds. No, it's about what is the consciousness in which husband and wife unite. There are many considerations there, and one very important consideration is that the child is wanted. Is wanted. Varṇa-saṅkaraḥ means again unwanted. But not unwanted, but sometimes not just, doesn't really mean unwanted by the parents. That's one meaning. But unwanted means that is born out of lust. That's the actual meaning. But the idea is that when children are born and they are wanted by their parents, and when they're born they are given love for their parents, they grow up emotionally stable and they become pillars for society. If the modern society, we find that there is so many mental problems. We have here an expert on this topic, Sudevi Mataji. She's a counselor. And most of the problems of adults are coming from childhood. Children not given the proper emotional support, emotional shelter. So to bring good progeny begins before even conception. A preparation that I'm going to be in the best consciousness, in a consciousness of service, and have that loving connection with the spouse. So it's like doing devotional service. We're coming to Mangalarti together, we're reading the scriptures together, we are creating like a team that we're doing devotional service together, so that when the time of conception comes, that same energy comes there. And it doesn't become a matter of, again, trying to enjoy the senses and try to satisfy a need. But actually this is also devotional service. It's not different from Krishna. When this is done in this consciousness, then Krishna sends a good soul. When we are really wanting to take care of that, of a particular, of a child, then Krishna will send someone. Nothing happens by chance. So Krishna will send someone, and then we can look after that person, and that person becomes later on someone who is contributing to the world. Yeah. Okay, so these are some points in regards to this. I'll say once again that it's very essential. I'm saying this because I took up Krishna consciousness in the West, and I really didn't understand the importance of Garbhadhana samskar, until I came to Mayapur, to the West. So maybe some people are there and listening from other parts of the world. I may not have been exposed too much to the importance of performing Garbhadhana samskar. The preparation involves how to prepare one's consciousness so that at the time of union, a good soul comes. So it's very, very important that we understand this as one of the purposes of the Grihastha ashram, by which we also become purified from the sex urge and the enjoying spirit, like this. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So is there any questions or comments? Thank you. Many of you are not from Mayapur, I guess. I see new faces here, so thank you for being here.
Prabhu, thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhu, you were saying that Parikshit Maharaj accepted
Faith.
So how do we reach to the point of acceptance?
This is a very wonderful question.
Is it stage by stage or?
Oh, definitely gradual. Yeah, it's definitely gradual. This is a question, a big question, and you know, because what one could say, okay, but then things happen to us. We don't do anything about it, right? Should we do? Let me understand. Let me see if I understood the question correctly. Like, when things happen to us, to what degree should we respond? To what degree should we react? Is that the question?
Certain things, somehow I am there in this situation. Okay, whatever happened, amongst devotees we have differences. So we end up in some situation which maybe I don't like. So I'm just saying is that how do I come to that point of acceptance? Acceptance, this is what Krishna's will.
Is Krishna consciousness. That's the whole, you know, is to be Krishna conscious and to see Krishna's hands in the situation. We have to bring Krishna into the equation and see what is Krishna trying to tell me in this situation. What is it within me that is causing for me to be in this particular situation? But it's tough because, you know, like, and I was bringing back to that point that it's like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, he's seeing the universal form, and the universal form is like, has heads on his mouth and his blood, and it's such a kind of ghastly, you know, image. And then Arjuna is saying, all this is rightly done. That's Krishna consciousness. Full faith. All this is rightly done. But often I'm thinking, all this is unrightly done, right? You know, we're in that space. Is it only me? You say, why things are going on like this? Why so much injustice in the world, right? So there is a balance between when things go to an extent where someone is going to be injured or there is some danger for someone, and then we have to intervene, we have to do something to stop that situation. There is some children being abused or someone being abused, then we can intervene, right? But when it comes into our own situation also, then I find that generally the path of tolerance works pretty well, you know. And in fact, it's described there in the Krishna book by Prabhupada that the greatness of a person is shown by his ability to tolerate provoking situations. And this is the greatness of Parikshit Maharaj. He accepted his fate. And he saw how this fate was helping him in his Krishna consciousness. So there is a beautiful purport. I mean, I don't know why I speak about this a lot. So maybe I sound repetitive, but there is a very nice purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shall I just read it? Because it's just too good for this. This is in the first canto, chapter 3, text maybe 32 or 34. Oops. No, 1 second. So it is very, very instructive, and is really addressing this question very nicely. Okay, and let's see if I can find it. I hope I can. 34, text 34. So I'm just going to go to the purport because we don't have much time, right? And I'm going to go to the section that I want to read. Okay, it says, the same energy, okay, and this is happening to what's happening to us, okay? Something is happening to us. So the same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies. Same thing. And by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of the above energies. Krishna can do anything and everything through his energies. Okay? Internal, external, marginal. Now, here comes the crunch. Okay? He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. He can change the external energy into internal energy by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. And the very same energy that then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization. Did you catch it? Anyway, you can read it afterwards. The example of electrical energy is very appropriate in this connection. The expert electrician can utilize the electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Similarly, the external energy who now bewilders the living entity into continuation of birth and death is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living entity to eternal life. So, the same situation, when I respond to the situation with Krishna consciousness in terms of repentance and penance, penance means that tolerance, that it's unpleasant, I don't want to do it. Anything else but this, I will not do it. Right? Do you find yourself with this? But when we do it, immediately the external energy subsides, it withdraws. And the same situation which pushing us down, it elevates us. That is the secret, that's the art of Krishna consciousness. So I'm saying, in this case, that the path of tolerance is always good, because generally I find that whenever I did take that route and things came to a point where they needed to be adjusted, Krishna did adjust them. I didn't have to, Krishna will adjust, But also, just to make it practical, if you are in a situation where you can no longer tolerate, then you move on. You move. You don't have to just stay there. If you cannot tolerate it, go. Clear? Yeah? Okay, Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu. Mike is coming behind you, right behind you.
Oh. India, they have a lot of Vedic culture because it's the culture of this country. Originally.
Yeah.
But in the West, like you said, you're in UK and there's America, Europe, other countries. Other countries don't have any Vedic culture, and is it an impediment to try to transform their society into a Vedic society, or should they just add Krishna to their lives without trying to change things?
Yeah, I'll just say, because we're over time now, if you need to leave, please leave. The boss is here, I don't want to break the rules. So I'll answer. It's a very, the question is basically, do we need to, export the culture, the Vedic culture, or just add Krishna consciousness? Is that what you're saying? But I will say that, that we should not, the cultural difference should not become an impediment to preach Krishna consciousness. Okay? But at the same time, in one sense, it's kind of, Krishna consciousness has a culture that goes with it, and is the Vedic culture. So for example, in the Vedic culture, there is the respect for the teacher, for the guru, right? I noticed that when I preached in the West, and I went to them, I was preaching in the Middle East, they were all, pious, educated Indians, and I could see how that culture to offer respect to the sadhu who is coming to speak, it makes things so much easier. The audience, when the audience is qualified, while you go in the West and the Western mentality is like, it's kind of challenging. It's trying to see, is this person trying to cheat me? Is it no? But with the Vedic culture, it's already some kind of respect. There are many things that are very favorable in the Vedic culture. So, do we need to give emphasis to the culture or to the Krishna consciousness? 100% to Krishna consciousness. 100% to Krishna consciousness. But Krishna consciousness, the culture of Krishna consciousness is Vedic culture. So gradually that we need to, teach and establish. Like for example, we are teaching this point about, Garbhadana samskar, right? And there are so many aspects. Vedic culture involves like getting up early in the morning, doing some spiritual activity in the morning, offering your food. These are all aspects of the Vedic culture which are foreign in the Western culture, right? And they are not separate from Krishna consciousness. Because it's limited for time, I know it's not like a very elaborate answer, but Hare Krishna. Okay? Because it's already over time, a few minutes. I'll have to, so we finish because I'm asked to finish at 9 o'clock and it's already 9:05. And the boss is here. You can come and you can ask me, I can respond to you, okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Haribol. Thank you very much.